From Broke to Rich by Manifesting. You can too. And I know some of you hear a title like that and immediately scoff because your nervous system has been trained to distrust confidence from men with beads, eye contact, and a mildly aggressive understanding of abundance. And that's okay. I was once like you, confused, resistant, financially under-resonating, spiritually and physically attractive, but fiscally handicapped. Hi, I'm Caden Vale, Manifesting Master, Abundance Guide, and someone who's experienced firsthand just how fast you can manifest a life of wealth and luxury while still remaining spiritually and vibrationally connected to the quantum field. And if I'm being completely transparent, there was a season of my life where I genuinely believed wealth would simply continue finding me through family inheritance, emotional charm, and my natural ability to explain basic selfishness in a language of mystical discourse. It didn't, because before I became the version of me you see today, there was another version, a more fragile version, a less linen-wearing version, a trust fund-dependent version, a version who thought money was received from family systems, instead of something you extracted from the universe through conviction, eye contact, and high-ticket coaching. And that version had to die. It began the day my father cut me off from the trust. Not because he didn't love me, he did, in his own limited, balance sheet-based way. But apparently he drew the line when I spent $14,444 of trust money on a one-page PDF called "The Wealth Wound is Your Wallet," and asked the family accountant to claim it as a business expense. At the time, I thought that purchase was visionary. The PDF was one page, cream background, brown serif font, 3 sentences, no refunds. But it carried a frequency, it carried an elegance, it carried a premium financial medicine that, quite frankly, my father was too emotionally discounted to understand. He called it fraud. I called it wealth mentorship. He called the accountant. And suddenly, just like that, I went from trust-backed to trust-broken. Cut off, detached, liquidated emotionally. Forced into what I now recognize as one of the most important chapters of my financial becoming. Because when the trust fund ended, I entered my broke era. Now, when I say broke, I want to be clear. I do not mean the ordinary broke that poor people relate to. I mean spiritually broke, identity broke, rich person broke. The kind of broke where the support systems shift so abruptly that you're forced to look inward, even if that inward journey happens from business class with a weighted blanket and a turmeric tonic. At the time, all I had left was my last $300,013 in cash and 7 Bitcoins on my Ledger Nano. That was literally it. No certainty, no roadmap, no paternal financial cushioning. Just me, a carry-on, a linen shirt, unresolved father wounds, and a one-way flight to Canggu, Bali. Because something inside me knew I had to leave. I had to get away from the old environment, the old labels, the old people who still saw me as the son who bought a PDF with trust money. So I flew to Bali. When I arrived, I was not the man I am now. I was shattered. Beautifully, softly, business class shattered. I remember sitting barefoot at a day spa that sold $12 spiced soy lattes and 2-for-1 colonic cleanses, staring out at a rice field that had clearly seen other men reinvent themselves before me, and I just knew. Money was no longer the issue. I was. That was the breakthrough. Not, how do I make more? Not, how do I recover financially? Not even, who's going to make the repayments on my Lambo? No. The real question was, who do I have to become so that money, wealth, luxury, devotion, overflow, and multi-stream income all feel emotionally safer with me than they did before? That question changed my life. Because in Bali, I did not just heal. I recalibrated. I spent months deep in the work. Breath work, cold plunges, nervous system regulation, crypto chart meditation, masculine embodiment, perineum sunning, high-frequency psilocybin shakes, 3 separate identity ceremonies, 2 of which were just me writing "Receive More" in my travel journal. And slowly, things began to shift. I stopped seeing money as a number and started seeing it as a relationship. I stopped seeing broke as a bank balance and started seeing it as a decision. That is when I realized most poor people are not poor because they lack money. They are poor because they lack financial self-concept. And yes, I know that may sound confronting to some people. Good. Confrontation is the first invoice from truth, because one of the deepest laws I discovered in Bali was this: the universe does not withhold wealth because your clothes are unbranded. It withholds it because your identity still believes you look good in them. That is the law of wealth containment. And the law of wealth containment teaches that money will only stay where the nervous system can hold it without immediately converting it into fear, guilt, or thinking, I shouldn't buy that Gucci man purse because the rent's due. That is why so many people make money and lose it. They are rich in wanting and broke in embodiment. That was me before Bali. I wanted wealth, but I still carried the emotional habits of someone waiting for Father to reinstate the trust, instead of someone who had decided to become fundable by the universe itself. So if you're watching this right now and you feel broke, understand what I mean. I'm not just talking about your embarrassing bank balance. I'm talking about your energetic fiscal posture. Do you still speak about success like it requires effort? Do you still hesitate before making purchases you can't afford and call that wisdom? Because you're not just broke financially. You're broke in the responsible purchasing sense. And that's the first thing that has to change. From broke to rich is never just financial. It's devotional. It's the shift from hoping money finds you to becoming someone money can trust. The shift from free trial curiosity to the 12-month subscription plan. That's why my methods work. I don't teach budgeting. I don't teach spreadsheets. I don't teach 5 side hustles you can start from home. That's not my lane. I teach wealth energetics, identity pricing, luxury receptivity, the sacred laws most people miss because they're too busy trying to get rich through effort instead of expensive programs. One of the first things I teach my clients is the law of divine pricing. The law of divine pricing says your reality mirrors the level at which you have decided to value your own expansion. So if you want wealth but panic at self-investment, life notices. If you want luxury but still act like transformation should be free, life notices. If you need a discount code, a guarantee, or your partner's permission before buying your dream car using your child's college fund, life notices, and life responds accordingly. That is why non-rich people like you stay stuck. They confuse responsible spending with spiritual maturity. They expect abundance without paid coaching. They want transformation with proven results. But the quantum field doesn't respond to hesitation. It responds to commitment. I learned that in Bali. Every breakthrough asks for a threshold. Every threshold asks for a decision. And every decision shows if you're trying to get rich from the identity of someone who believes becoming rich requires hard work. You can go from broke to rich, but not while calling fear being responsible. Not while wanting premium outcomes with emotionally subsidized action. At some point, your future has to become more important than your excuses. And yes, sometimes that looks like a price point so high, it activates the financial anxiety that has been keeping you broke. Beautiful. That activation is not a problem. It's a portal. Because broke energy hates thresholds. Rich energy understands them. Broke energy asks, can I get the same result for free? Rich energy asks, where do I sign up? Broke energy saves the post. Rich energy buys the course. That's the difference. And I am living proof. I was cut off, misunderstood, financially displaced, emotionally exfoliated by my father's inability to recognize that my one-page PDF purchase was actually an intuitive business pivot. And yet, because I went inward, because I went to Bali, because I stopped behaving like a man who needed his next level approved by the family accountant, I became rich. Not just in money, in certainty, in standards, in self-concept, in revenue, obviously, but first, in identity. So stop calling yourself broke when what you really are is inwardly underpriced. Stop idolizing rich people and start understanding them as people who became unavailable for cheap inner narratives. Stop asking the field how. Start asking it, what's taking so long? Because wealth is not a reward, it is a reflection. And once your reflection gets more expensive, reality has very few options left but to catch up. If this vibrated with you, comment rich for my Broke to Rich Bali transmission. It includes 2 photos of my personal travel journal entry, written at the exact moment I realized wealth was an identity issue, not a trust fund issue, as well a 5-minute audio loop of me saying, receive more. Priced at $2,007, It will land in your inbox once your payment clears. If that price activates you, good. It's a sign your old financial identity is panicking because it knows the era of budget consciousness is ending. As always, my beautiful souls, I say namaste, and remember, personal transformation is non-refundable.